an eye on that. Today, the President Trump's going to be meeting with the leader of the Philippines, John Decker. Our own White House correspondent will be checking in with that in a little bit. Got a full show for you. We have another comfortable morning. It almost felt like autumn out there early this morning, and it's going to get warm again by Thursday and Friday, back into the 90s, but enjoy the cooler temps. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Jack Heath, J-Dog on the boards. So we can roll off. We're going to pack show for you this Tuesday morning. Going to have some fun in the 10 o'clock hour. We're going to Hollywood, or Hollywood's coming to us. The Superman movie, Heath Bosley, good buddy of mine in the show in the state of New Hampshire's and veterans here. He is in that movie, and he's going to be joining us live. It's doing well at the box office, and that's in the 10 o'clock hour. Our poll question up on X this morning, and it's a story that's changing by the half day or hour, it seems, and that is, you just heard from Fox in our news, more and more now on the Jeffrey Epstein case, if you will, matter, client list. You just heard some folks in the Justice Department going to speaking with Ghislaine Maxwell, who is trying to sell her house, by the way, here in New Hampshire. It's right up off of 89 for $2.5 million, where she was picked up and arrested, the accomplice of Epstein. And our poll question up on X is, do you want more information or all the information from the Attorney General or whatever they have, including a client list made public? Yes or no? Do you want more? Do you think do you want more information? Yes or no? That's up. And J-Dog will give us our results, I think, from yesterday, J-Dog, on our poll question before we bring in John Stephen with an update on the Berlin, New Hampshire murder-suicide. J-Dog, do you have those?
Is the Coldplay concert couple video from last week actual news? Well, Jack, we've done it again. 100% say no.
But it went viral and bounced around like a boomerang, if you will. Speaking of news,
parodying it to this day.
Yeah, speaking of news, it's not news. Now Stephen Colbert's whining. I won't get into that. But the Coldplay Jumbotron. What about Hunter Biden? Who cares what he has to say, right? Oh, my goodness. He's ranting and raving, saying Joe Biden, the president, was on Ambien during his presidency. That will knock you down a little bit. Who knows what he's on? So talk about irrelevant. But we do, I think John Stephen, if he's joining us, J-Dog, is the counselor, executive.
When I wave the paper, you'll know.
Oh, okay. He's going to be checking in a moment. And executive counselor John Stephen and Joe Kenny staying right on top of this story. They want answers. The executive council, they want to get to the bottom of this. And this, of course, has to do with did the judicial system fumble badly? And, you know, would the wife, the woman in Berlin, New Hampshire, be alive today had they not allowed her estranged, violent, criminal husband to be out on bail? And we're going to get a check-in a moment with executive counselor John Stephen. And they will, in fact, if he can, I think he's calling in, J-Dog. I think he's, I'm just getting him back and forth with him, make sure he has the number. 603-228-2080. We'll get an update on that. And they want executive counselors ask for more information. They want more information on that whole situation, and they're trying to round up all the parties to get the information. And really, I've never seen John Stephen, the executive counselor, and I think Joe Kenny, to an extent, the executive counsel for the North Country, really so fired up and staying on top of this. And that's how sometimes you get to the bottom of things. But certainly, this was a huge fumble. This was a huge fumble. And when you have a classic case of violent, criminal, physical, kidnapping, stalking in a domestic violence case like this, and then have, as police say, the husband who had been charged so many times with violence against his ex-wife or estranged wife, or she was trying to get away from him, kill her and then take his life. It's just this is about as bad as it gets. So they're trying to really get to the bottom of it. And John Stephen, the executive counsel, has been right on top of that. And he has an update for us live right here. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an Age. Counselor, take it away.
Thank you, Jack. I just wanted to let your listeners know we're going to be meeting Thursday, Counselor Kenny, myself, with General and the Chief Justice, and also meeting with the Commissioner of Safety. They've been working to put together facts and circumstances to answer a lot of our questions. And we want to make sure we're leaving no stone unturned. And we're hearing facts and circumstances from individuals calling us. And Counselor Kenny and I are not going to let this go until we figure out where the gaps are. And that could include law enforcement not taking action when they should have. And that's what we're starting to hear, and we want to get to the bottom of it.
What about the magistrate in question? Do we know her exact status within the court system? Still hearing cases, still working, administrative leave, pending review? What's the latest?
I've been told that she's not hearing cases, but I want that to be confirmed on Thursday by the Chief Justice. I also obviously will continue to, and Counselor Kenny as well, ask for her to be removed from hearing any cases, period. And we'll continue to do that. I'll know more on Thursday. But the facts and circumstances we're hearing from people calling us and from individuals is somewhat alarming, but I want to make sure it's verified. But the issue now for us is to fix this system to make sure that no victims will suffer such unspeakable tragedy in the future. And we need a better system to communicate. We need to make sure that law enforcement takes decisive action. And we need to make sure that when they don't, they're held accountable as well.
Councilor Stevens, so that's this Thursday. My perception, based on some of the public reports and what you had said before, is police were doing their job and that the fumble appeared to be in the judicial system. Are you saying that the police were not as attentive in this case? Because it seemed to be a lot of arrest and charges and case, a lot of situations against the estranged husband.
Well, first of all, from the very beginning, I have said every single stone cannot be left unturned. It could be many, many players in the system that need to be looked at in terms of their roles. They knew when and what they did. The very first thing is the magistrate's decision. The magistrate's decision should have been to not grant bail, period. We know that. Then there was an arraignment the following day with a district court judge and a police officer. They should have asked for the revoking of bail at that point, and they did not. And so we're going to figure out to find out why not. What was told? Why did the judge and the police prosecutor not ask for a revocation of bail? Then when we get facts that come to us that show that there was repeated incidences that were known to the police subsequent to April, and that could have been in May, and also one up into July with a separate victim, as well as the victim here issuing a further call to the police to take action. That tells me, Jack, there's a number of missteps here in the system. We need to make sure those do what they were supposed to do.
Right.
Also, so there's a number of areas. The question you're asking me cannot be answered until we get all the facts.
And finally, because this was a judicial court system, my understanding, employee, magistrate who worked and reported to the Chief Justice or other judges within the judicial system, is the court system, the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice, and the judges involved being as open and transparent as you would like, or not?
As of right now, I'm very satisfied with the Chief Justice and his administrative court in terms of addressing our questions, and I'm going to give them the opportunity to assemble facts, and I know they're doing that right now. They have the forms that were filled out, not just in April when Marisol went for a order, and when the actual police and the magistrate met on that weekend. There's plenty more facts. There's more forms. There's subsequent calls. They're collecting that information along with the Attorney General. I want you to know the Attorney General, though, is the chief law enforcement officer in the state of New Hampshire.
Right. I understand.
A lot of this is going to rest with the Attorney General to do his investigation. And I know Counselor Kenny is going to continue to ask those questions as well. And we're both committed to this, especially because of the Manchester incident with this magistrate. But it now needs to really be one that looks at the entire system, Jack.
So this meeting Thursday is with you and Counselor Kenny and these folks, Commissioner of Safety, Public Safety, Attorney General, and others. Is it going to be in the council chambers? Is it a public-private meeting? Is it a meeting? It's not a regular council meeting. It's a special meeting you're arranging?
It's a special meeting that Counselor Kenny and I requested in the council chambers at 1 p.m.
Okay, my final question is, and I'm not trying to get you stirred up more.
Go ahead.
But you're an executive counselor. Have you spoken with the governor about this? That's one question.
Yes, I have.
And the second question is, how can you be an executive counselor and Joe Kenny be an executive counselor and not even know the answer today if the magistrate is on leave or working?
Because the magistrate does not work for the council.
I know, but I would think that the judge or someone would be able to tell the executive council, not that you have any revoking clout, but the status of the employee. Because if this was a police case and you were concerned, I think as an executive counselor, a chief or Bob Quinn at public safety would tell you, hey, counselor, the officer is on paid leave until we do the review. I think someone would tell you that, at least the status.
Again, I agree with you. That's a question I will ask again on Thursday. I've been assured she's not hearing bail cases, but that's not satisfying to me. I'll continue to probe and we'll find out more on Thursday.
Sounds good.
But your question is a really good question.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Jack.
All right. We have a lot going on. And, it's interesting just nationally. We're going to get a check-in with Brad Card because, we're not paying as much attention, but down in Congress, they're trying to do some stuff like keep the government funded. Members of Congress have concerns about this Jeffrey Epstein matter, which continues to be a moving ball, if you will. And we're going to get an update there a little bit later on. John Decker, our own White House correspondent, on all of the above. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. Looking at a pretty nice Tuesday. We are back in a moment.
The Pulse of New Hampshire is hitting the land. Pulse of New Hampshire. Good morning, New Hampshire, live from the Outdoor Pride Studios. Now, back to Jack on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
Thank you. Enjoyed having our appreciated Executive Counselor John Stephen on regarding the special meeting Thursday on this Berlin, New Hampshire, trying to get to the bottom, no stones unturned, questions and answers on this Berlin, New Hampshire murder-suicide. And Joe Kenny, Executive Counselor, may be calling in as well. Brad Card, one of our political analysts and all-stars, co-host of Contact Politics, our weekly podcast here at the Pulse of an H and worldwide. Our guest tomorrow on Contact Politics, former New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu. That'll be tomorrow, available tomorrow afternoon. Brad Card, good morning, Brad.
Hey, Jack.
Hey, before we jump into Congress, what's happening down in D.C. in Congress, it's interesting. I had a question I asked. I was just thinking in the last 12 hours, I haven't heard this asked nationally. It's a 20,000-foot speculative question. So here you go to get you going. With everything we now know about the Trump administration in this term and everything they're doing, including southern border, ICE action, tariff trade, cuts, big, beautiful bill, I could go on, world stuff. Tell me a Democrat nationally who could beat President Trump if there were an election, hypothetically, a month from Tuesday. Is there a Democrat, despite all this stuff and the noise we're hearing and even protest over Stephen Colbert's show being canceled? I saw some protest, cancel Trump, not Colbert, despite all this stuff. Tell me a Democrat that you think in a general election could beat Trump at this point, or could anyone? If the election were, again, like a month from now.
Yeah, that's the key question, Jack, right? Because you can't beat somebody with nobody. And it doesn't seem to be that candidate. Although Donald Trump is not nearly his polling on his issues is upside down for many of his issues that were right side up. I mean, Immigration in particular took a big hit because he's kind of expanded those bounds a little bit. And there's some things there that have hurt him a little bit. That said, I don't know who that candidate would be. It would, I guess Andy Beshear is somebody who might have a decent shot. It's the old adage, Jack, if they go too far, if you're going to play too far to the left, which is where the Democrat Party is heading, then Republicans are going to keep winning.
Well, I give you good grades because you did a better job answering that than I think any analyst could right now. I mean that. I listened to Carvell, former Democrat, operative in the Clinton administration, James Carvell, and I get a kick out of him. And he thinks the Democrats are close to having a civil war within their own party, being split too far to the left. Brad, let's switch gears. What's going on in Congress in this Jeffrey Epstein case? The story keeps taking this morning there was new national news. Now I guess some folks in the Justice Department have talked to Ghislaine Maxwell in prison, trying to see about a list. I mean, this thing keeps going on its own, or maybe not. But what are your thoughts on Congress and what's going on?
Well, it kind of seems like Donald Trump doctor tests too much. I mean, I don't. This was something they were going to release this whole report. They were going to release it. You have the press conference by the Attorney General, and you have the head of the FBI and the deputy director of the FBI both kind of falling into that. We got to release the Epstein files. And all of a sudden, Donald Trump's like, there's nothing to see here. Just kind of move on. That's not flying for MAGA world, and it's not flying for members of Congress. So now they're going to pursue a discharge petition. Now, I don't think they're going to be able to get this discharge petition done before Congress adjourns for the August recess. But it has really stifled any progress that they could make because it's so controversial and they can't get this thing through the Rules Committee. So we're not doing appropriation bills like they should be. And honestly, they may as well just go home for the August recess now. They're going to do a bunch of suspension votes that are bipartisan, non-controversial, and they require 2/3 votes pass the House. And the Speaker is saying that he's going to keep them here to do suspension votes, but they're not getting appropriation bills done. So that's going to make a very difficult situation more difficult because it's really an uphill climb to get these appropriation bills done. So, look, it's a mess right now. And I kind of feel like we've been saying this. It's almost like Groundhog Day. We've been having these messes for a long time now with Congress.
Interesting. What else is catching your eye? Anything else? I know we have Chris Sununu tomorrow. That'll be a good one because we can get into some beef and issues. But what else is catching your eye?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to our Contact Politics show this week. It's going to be fun. I think the governor's a great guy, and he'll have an awful lot to say. And he's got an interesting perspective where he's been kind of way on the outs with President Trump, and then kind of back in the fold a little bit with President Trump, where they quoted him to run for Senate. So I'm actually really interested in hearing that whole backstory. That's it, Jack. I mean, they've got to get these appropriation bills done. And if they don't, they're going to have to pass the continuing resolution. And what was really interesting is the head of the Freedom Caucus signaled that he would actually support a continuing resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't forget, Jack, if you pass the CR, we're still under the Biden administration numbers, right?
Interesting.
So
yeah.
You're extending Biden administration policies and numbers if you go with a continuing resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Freedom Caucus said that he would agree with that, and he cited that it's a couple of years old now, so that he thinks there's savings there, and he doesn't want to plus things up, and that's sometimes they plus up certain programs even in a CR. And he said he's even okay, as I understand it, said he was okay with earmarks in this bill because it'll be at old numbers. So the overall, they'll be saving money. And then they also cited the fact that they did the Big Beautiful Bill where they had a number of big savings in that, and that they just did the rescissions package.
All right. Brad Card, I appreciate it. Contact Politics tomorrow. Former Governor Chris Sununu will tell you when that's available, probably about 2:00 tomorrow afternoon. Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, you'll go. See you.
All right, coming up, John Decker, our own White House correspondent. He's going to be in the Oval Office today when the president meets with the leader of the Philippines, and anything else, including the latest on the Epstein, I guess, mess, or we'll see what's there. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an Age. A little bit later on, Rory O'Neill, this is a good one. Americans don't seem to like, if you own a house, they don't seem like this is a good time to sell a house. They don't feel that way. Gas prices are down. Beef and grocery prices still up. Where's the American consumer? Rory will weigh in with that. And then we also go to Hollywood, or Hollywood comes to us. So Heath, he's plays a pretty good role in the new movie, or the movie that's out, Superman. We'll hear from a super buddy of ours. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an Age. Back in a few.
107.7 WTPL, The Pulse. Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, we're going to be hearing from our own White House correspondent, John Decker, live. He's going to be in the Oval Office today when the president meets with the leader of the Philippines, and John will be joining us. And then Executive Counselor Joe Kenny's going to do a check-in after Counselor Stephen is on, talking about this special meeting they've arranged for Thursday to try and get to the bottom of all questions and answers as it pertains to that Berlin, New Hampshire murder-suicide. So we'll come back with the council, but first, John Decker, our own White House correspondent. In the Oval Office today, the president will be meeting with the leader of the Philippines, but I'm sure there'll be other questions asked, and I get a feeling there might be a question asked about the Epstein case. I don't know why, but I just get that feeling. Good morning, John.
Well, I get that feeling too, but as far as the agenda for this visit by the president of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., I think two big items: trade and also security. On the trade front, the president sent a letter to the Philippines on July the 9th, very recently, indicating that the trade tariff rate for goods coming from the Philippines into the U.S. will be tariffed at a 20% rate. The U.S. has a trade surplus, by the way, with the Philippines. And then on security, the Philippines considers, as they should, China a threat. The whole region considers China a threat, and the U.S. has military bases in the Philippines, so certainly security issues will be on the agenda. You'll see Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State / National Security Advisor, and Pete Hegseth certainly in the room when the president meets with President Marcos.
And then, of course, we have ongoing movement as it pertains to the Ukraine, with more meetings coming up there.
Well, that's right, but no meeting like what President Zelensky had requested. He wanted a face-to-face meeting with President Vladimir Putin this week. He's not going to get that.
No.
But, this is a meeting that is the third one in a series of meetings that have happened over the course of the last 2 months between officials from Ukraine and officials from Russia.
And John Decker, I know you're focused on the Philippines meeting, and I'll let you go on this, but real quickly, it's listening to more the news than anything else and looking at signs. Now, it sounds there's a Fox story this morning that the Justice Department, some investigators are now planning to try to meet and speak with Ghislaine Maxwell. And there's a New Hampshire connection because she was arrested here in her home here that she's trying to sell in New Hampshire to see if there is a client list and information. But this seems to be one of the few stories, because I go back to the Signal, whatever that chat.
Signal Gate.
Yeah, Signal Gate.
Right.
This seems to be one of the ones where I think President Trump is honestly perplexed at why this story doesn't go away, because sometimes when he kind of pushes it aside and said there's nothing here, it's a hoax, most of the time things do evaporate. This one, I wonder if he's even...
Because I agree with you. The news cycle does typically move incredibly quickly. It moved relatively quickly with Signalgate. That's a story that lasted maybe a full week, Monday through Friday. This one's lasted a few weeks. And the president has tried, through various ways to get us talking about something else, whether it's the release of those documents from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, on Friday of last week, or the president suggesting that the Cleveland Guardians baseball team and the Washington Commanders football team changed their name. Various ways to get the media talking about something else, but always once we talk about that, we get back to Epstein, it seems like, and that has perplexed the president. I'm in agreement with you on that.
I was going to bring up the Washington Commanders, or even the case with Harvard University. Thank you, John Decker, our own White House correspondent. Thank you. Big day today. I'm sure these other questions. John's usually the one who asked them. John Decker was the one who asked not many weeks ago when things started, the little dust up between President Trump and Elon Musk. He said, "What's going on with you and Elon?" It was an 8-minute answer. So we'll see what happens today. All right, I want to switch gears. Executive Counselor Joe Kenny joining us as well. He's busy this morning, but I appreciate his live check-in here. Good morning, New Hampshire, the pulse of NH. We just had Counselor Stephen on, Counselor Kenny, talking about Thursday's meeting. What do you hope to learn that day? And we still, I don't know, I asked Counselor Stephen, he said that he's satisfied with the court system, the Chief Justice Gordon McDonald, for being forthright on all information. You're going to try and get to the bottom of this, Commissioner of Safety and others. But we still don't know the exact status, do we, of the magistrate in question? Good morning, Counselor.
Good morning, Jack. Good to be on the show. We don't know the status of the magistrates at this point. Last we knew, she in essence had been reassigned, is not in charge of doing bail hearings on the weekend. But we don't know, exactly if she's going to be staying on as an employee or if she's going to be relieved. It doesn't appear that she's on administrative leave, but hopefully we'll find out more information on Thursday when we talk to the Chief Justice about this particular individual. I have to say, Jack, I was in the North Country the last 3 days. Saturday, I was at North Country Firefighter Appreciation Day up there near Colebrook and Canaan, all the Northern firefighters. The next day, I was at Summit Salute right outside of Gorham at the base of Mount Washington. And yesterday, I was in Pittsburgh to do a site review of our meeting site coming up on the 30th of July. And each location and day that I was in the North Country, everybody is still talking about this murder-suicide. And they appreciate myself and Councilor Stevens pursuing the truth of this case because there's too many irregularities, too many unknowns. And so any information I get, I'm pushing it off to the Attorney General, to their lead investigator. There's a lot of tips, there's a lot of information coming forward, but we need to know how we got into this situation, what was leading up to the murder-suicide, who was involved, and who knew what. It's such an emotional case. As a constituent who had actually met this person after a chamber event earlier this year, March 21st, very impressionable young lady trying to make her way in life. Then all of a sudden, her life is abruptly taken away from her.
Right.
And so there's a lot of information out there we need to collect, and we need to make sure that this continues to be an open investigation, that anybody who has information needs to come forward.
Well, Councilor Kenny, the other thing I was going to ask you, and I'll end with that, but before I ask that, I think another thing that maybe, I don't want to speak for you or Councilor Stevens or assume anything, but maybe driving your concerns is not just the victim in question, because that's the ultimate question, because she might be alive today had this violent, I guess, estranged husband been held until the trial. But I would think other victims that might be caught up in this perfect nightmare or just complete nightmare of a stalking domestic violence situation that gets as bad as it could get. And sometimes these victims don't seem to be able to get away from the person who's trying to hurt them. And you would think that in New Hampshire, the system of the courts could protect that person, whether it's from a stalking case, kidnapping, assault, and all this thing had all of that. Before I let you can comment on that. Go ahead.
Yes, Jack. Our sexual assault framework system, if you will, has to be under review as we look at this case and look at the court system and what went wrong and how can we fix it. But we need to know how we treat women who are in these domestic violence or divorce situations, so they have the safe house, so they have resources, but they're pulled out of the community or the area until they're safe again. Because there are women who are caught up in that presently. I know I too in my area who've reached out to me who need help as they get through this divorce proceedings with a soon-to-be ex-husband who are acting violent towards them and suggesting different things. And I think we need to have an overall review of how we look at domestic violence, whether it's training at the police level, whether it's the resources that are needed from women who need to be protected until they go to trial. There's a lot that we have to review, not only on Thursday, but well beyond Thursday.
Well, again, it's we've seen in other states and cases where an estranged individual will take the life of a child, take the life of an ex, and it's just terrible. Hey, before I let you go, you mentioned this community. I did see the picture of you in Pittsburgh on social media, Pittsburgh, New Hampshire. But how is Berlin, New Hampshire doing after the services and some sense of normalcy returning?
Well, I think it's still on their mind. I mean, obviously, there's a shrine in front of the Mexican restaurant, Basitas, and that's reminds people, which has happened here not too long ago. And so I think people are still trying to figure out what happened and how can we prevent this in the future. And they go from the shock phase to the mourning phase to the angry phase. I think people up there are still angry.
All right. Just curious. I appreciate Counselor. Please keep in touch with us, and hopefully Thursday you get to the bottom of more questions and answers. Thank you, Counselor Joe Kenny. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, a lot going up, a lot going on. Top of the 10 o'clock hour, going to hear from Dean Spiliotis, Southern Hampshire University, talking about is a Democrat. One is a Democrat. What Democrat? Who's going to run for governor against Kelly Ayotte in her expected reelection bid? It may seem early, but on a political calendar, it is not. And then Superman the movie. It's doing well domestically and internationally in the box office. Superman the movie. Fahim Fazli will be checking in, and he's in the movie. And he's been up to New Hampshire, of course. We've had events. He's an incredible patriot. He's got an amazing story. He served with the United States Marines as a scout in Afghanistan as a Hollywood actor after he and his family fled his native Afghanistan. And he's been in a lot of movies, including American Sniper, Iron Man, and now Superman, the movie. And he thinks the world of this director, James Gunn. So we'll be hearing from Fahim in the 10 o'clock hour in the movie Superman. I haven't seen it, J-Dog. You have a connection as well. Buddy of yours got in the backdrop of one of these scenes, right?
He's in with Fahim during the Atlanta or the greater Georgia shooting of the film. I saw it last Sunday, not this past Sunday, the Sunday before. So,
yeah, it's interesting because I remember when Fahim was filming.
Yeah.
And he sent me some images, and he's just, for a Hollywood person, and I mean this absolutely sincerely, I love his humility. And J-Dog, I'm just going to say this, and it is a blessing to be able to do the show. Someone was mentioning Superman yesterday and how well it's doing. So I haven't seen the movie. The last movie I've seen in the movie theaters, believe it or not, was a Tom Cruise, the latest Mission Impossible. So last early evening, really, of course, he's out. He lives in outside of LA, but on the beach, because he's always telling me about his volleyball workouts. But I just sent him a quick message because I was checking in with him with the LA wildfires were happening because his home's not far from there.
He was on during that time.
Yeah. So no PR person. I don't have to go through an agent, a publicist. Hey, Fahim, Superman, the movie's going great. You told me about it when you were making it a while ago. How are you? When can you be on my show? You know what he says? How's tomorrow morning?
There you go.
Send me a time. And I'm like, wow. And then he sends me all these pictures. I'll show you later, J-Dog. Your buddy might be in them, of him, going to the premiere with the director and the cast. And I go, he's just amazing. Humility is such a great, wonderful thing, isn't it? To be a humble person, whether you're a pro athlete, an entertainer, public figure, just to be humble, because there's no reason not to be. As Fahim said, he's lucky he's able to make movies. He's lucky he's alive. He fled the Taliban. Then he goes back with the Marines downrange as a successful Hollywood actor, probably the first since World War II to serve like that. And he's an amazing person. He'll be joining us talking about the movie Superman. When we come back, though, we'll talk some gold and silver in a moment.
This is the Pulse of on the pulse of New Hampshire.
Okay, here we go. Let's just do a general. All right, Adam Van with Alpine Gold. You hear their communications on the show. Adam's been a regular, great partner and sponsor, Alpine Gold. And just a few weeks ago, enjoyed being at their official open house, downtown Manchester, 1800 Elm Street. And they're underway, but they've been there, but they have great stuff. And it was fun for me to be there, Adam, because I could see how you and your team operate. I love your colleague there who served in the Marines. He was very informative, but it really is a concierge type service for your clients, not just come in and buy some gold and silver bars. That's what I noticed. I really is a consultative kind of come on in, let's meet and talk, private, confidential, comfortable. I just saw how you operate with your clients and I was impressed.
Thank you very much. It was a really great grand opening having you there.
That was good instinct. You knew how to turn that down.
We had a great turnout. Later that afternoon, you were there in the morning, of course, and then later that afternoon we had the hot dog guy there, and we had 75 people show up.
Oh wow!
There were 5 people just from the radio show that showed up. We had people lined up in the parking lot, ready to go. It wound up being really good. And you're right about our office. It's not like a regular gold and silver store. It's not a numismatic coin shop. We are all about features, and we answer the question, what do you do with it? So of course you want to buy gold and invest in gold. It's a hedge against inflation. You hear these things all over the radio, but what do you do with it?
Well, I got to tell you, we had a very interesting segment or two yesterday, and we're going to continue it on. We have a what is it, J-Dog? You updated me yesterday. $37.1 trillion debt, and no one's talking about, everyone's worked up right now about Medicaid, Medicare. We're going to see in the big, beautiful bill some work requirements as our people's, public insurance coverage and support, which I'm not belittling at all. Many people need that. In fact, in New Hampshire, the number may be less than I thought, but U.S. Senator Jeanne Shaheen just said there may be 8,000 who could be impacted with some coverage adjustments. My point is Social Security. It's a big part of people's retirement. In less than 7 years, if we don't do something about it, they could see 25% less every month, and no one's talking about it in Washington. What I'm talking about, that's all debt. It's all interest we pay on the debt, and that's biting into the dollar every single day and night. It's biting into the dollar. And I'm always amazed, Adam, when you see studies of what, $50,000 15 or 10 years ago was to today's buying power. It's eye-opening.
It is. I was just having this conversation with my daughter yesterday, and we were watching some sort of clip, and some movie actor had got paid $50,000 back in the 90s to make a movie. And she's like, well, that's not very much money. And it was an old clip, so they were talking about how much money that was. And I forget who it was, but she was confused when she looked at it. She thought, well, why is $50,000 a big deal? Like people don't make anything like that now. So even the children, when they look back just, 20, 25 years before their time, but just 20, 25 years ago, it's 10x. It's 10x of inflation that we've gone through. That's just absolutely madness.
Yeah, and I like some of your communications on my program, that the one thing you could do is to hedge and feel a little bit comfortable is to look at gold and silver as part of your portfolio or your investments that you can touch and hold. It certainly is a very strong hedge, in my opinion.
It definitely is. It has a 5,000-year track record. It's never been worth zero. It's recognized internationally and around the world. It's also recently, I've been reading some articles that the Fed is talking, the Federal Reserve, and I forget who it is that holds all the gold. I'm just blanking on it. But they're talking about a revaluation of gold. So not only is it a natural hedge against inflation, but they're now talking about revaluing gold like they did in 1933 when they took it from $20 an ounce to $35 an ounce. They're talking about revaluation of gold now. And that could be huge. Anybody who has gold during a revaluation, it's just like when a stock splits or something like that. You want to have it beforehand, before the revaluation.
Yeah, and one of the things we're seeing in New Hampshire and other states we'll come back to is this effort to kind of, even the states now recognizing precious metal as a form of, accepted currency. I don't know why it wouldn't be, by the way, because it is gold and silver. I mean, it's we like nice gold jewelry because we know it's going to last forever. You think about that, isn't it interesting? I was thinking about this the other day. Gold and silver, whether it's a ring or a watch or something that it's a keepsake. And one thing you always know about that, think about this: whether someone's passed it on or handed it down, it's going to last. It's real. That piece of gold, that it could be a cross, it could be a necklace, it could be a beautiful wedding ring. One thing it shows is it lasts and it holds.
One of the reasons why we have charm bracelets with these little things that hang off of it is because those little charms are specific weights. And whenever you're wearing jewelry, you're wearing
true.
your wealth.
I remember my late grandmother had one, someone else had one, and then I think Pandora made a whole business off these little charms. But the line used to be, if it was really heavy, it was probably more valuable.
Yeah, and then when you
That's
go
funny you say
abroad, the idea is you can take these charms off and you can spend them. You can use them as trade. So if you get in a pinch,
has value.
It has value, and you can trade with them, and that's why we have these little charm pendants. And in Thailand, in the Philippines, and in India, that's what they do. That's
they probably rather receive some gold or silver than some piece of paper.
It's
right?
part of their culture. Yeah, they don't put it in the bank. They don't put it in the bank. They put it on.
Yeah. When we go to the top of the hour after some news, we'll have you stick around. We'll talk a little bit about where the market's at, where things are at, and what are good ways to buy a little bit of gold and a little bit of silver and some of the other metals as well, as we get going on a really what's pretty darn nice, beautiful weather out there. And as far as one of the other things I want to talk about too, we still, I think, if you go to alpinegold.com and you want to order and have some silver sent to your house or some gold, you can use the code at checkout. Use Pulse, right?
That's right. Use Pulse at checkout. You're going to get free shipping. Go to alpinegold.com. Take a look at all of our products there. We've got all kinds of things. We got platinum and silver. And then whenever you're ready to check out, use Pulse. You have to go through the checkout process first and then put Pulse in at the very last page.
And with all the competitors out there, and there are a few and some for gold and silver, obviously, you're different because your parent company has created an actual association for members, right?
That's right.
United Precious Metals Association.
That's
right.
You
can check that out, upma.org. And that's pretty cool that you're actually trying to establish, a national association.
Yeah, it is established. We have 80,000 members. We're represented. It's called the United Precious Metals Association. It's a platform where members can trade with other members. So whenever you sell gold or buy gold or trade in silver, you can exchange it back and forth. You can get a debit card. You can do all kinds of things with it. You can even ACH, you can liquidate and ACH it right to your bank account. And that's all done through a 501c6 member-to-member exchange. And it's already established. 80,000 members. We're doing, I don't even know how many thousands of transactions a day. And so, yeah, that's one of the things that we support.
And if someone does order some silver, say $500 worth, $100, shipping usually is within a regular business type week or so.
Yeah, 3 to 5 business days, typical.
Pretty cool. All right, hey Google, hey Alexa, play the Pulse of an Age. Top of the 10 o'clock, we'll get the latest on the news. John Decker, our White House correspondent, just joining us from the White House. A little bit later on, the movie Superman. We'll introduce you to one of the actors. Back in a moment.